Okay, and welcome back to the Ales and Fails Twitch stream. I'm your host, Alewolf, otherwise known as Ales, Gentleman Streamer, the excellence in execution, brewmaster for the Order of the Shield Lichen. And welcome back to Friday. I think at this point it is Saturday night. So we just made it into the weekend, at least in my little corner of the world. How are you doing? Hopefully you've got some fun weekend plans ahead of you. You deserve a good break. It's been a long, arduous week, and I think it is time for you to, chill, mellow out, have a good time. I know I certainly deserve that, but before I go into that, I'm going to do the last thing that I enjoy for myself, and that is do some good old-fashioned streaming. Imagine that, for the first time this week I actually made it to stream on time, which didn't used to be the case. I used to be pretty punctual with these things, but life is just tough, folks. Life just kind of gets in the way with these things. It's a little bit frustrating, but unfortunately it can't really be helped. We'll continue to try to do our best, and maybe someday we'll actually get there. Maybe someday we'll actually be good and consistent. Tonight, we will actually be playing Radical Dreamers, which is a game that I've been trying to finish for, I want to say, the past 2 months. I was looking at my records, and I think the last time I played this was sometime in early April. And the reason why I haven't played this very often is simply because it is a very text-heavy game. It is mostly reading, and I want to say there hasn't been a good week in the past month or so where I haven't been either very cold or recovering from a cold, and my voice hasn't kept up. This week is no different. I'm actually very much still recovering from a very bad cold from 2 weeks ago. But the reason why I decided to play this tonight is because I'm just over it. I really want to finish this game, and I want to move on to something else where I don't have to strain my voice and continue to compromise my schedule. So we'll see what we can do. We'll try and take it easy. We have our friend Water with us, so hopefully it'll be sufficient for me to actually power through the last few endings of Radical Dreamers. And as you can see, my voice is already going. I did go ahead and pin down a question of the night for tonight. What's one decision that you could wish you could redo? I'm gonna keep it simple here, folks, and I'm gonna say that maybe one thing that I wish I would have done maybe is discover streaming a lot earlier than I did. I feel like right now it's a very busy time of my life, and I'm really excited about streaming. But if I would have pursued this maybe like 5 years ago, when it was at its inception, I feel like I would have gotten so much more traction, and I feel like I wouldn't be in this state where I'm just like, oh, I discovered this very wonderful thing that I really want to do. I have no time for it. I am grasping, I am clawing at my schedule in order to actually stream. And it is because it is something that I have discovered I love. So that is my redo there. Let me know what you think about this question. Let me know if you have any decisions that you wish you could redo. Before we move back into the game, I'm going to talk about what we have on tap tonight. This is an ale from our friends at Einstock, which is from Iceland. This is a wee heavy. What exactly is a wee heavy? So there's two main, there's two iconic styles from the Scottish tradition from Scotland. There's Scottish ales, and there's wee heavies or Scotch style ales. They're both brownish ales, and they're both relatively sweet. Scotland is not known for its hops. And the main difference between them is the fact that Scottish ales are actually generally under 6% alcohol by volume, so they're generally light, like 4%, 4.5%. Wee heavies, as you can imagine, are 6% and above. They're definitely heavier brews. Some people have actually compared them to quadruples from England. So of course this is not a Scottish ale. This is from Iceland, so I'm guessing it's their take on the Scottish wee heavy. And again, they're generally more caramel forward. You got far more richer consistency when it comes to the grains. I'm assuming that it is probably toasted. I don't know that for a fact. But yeah, it's a heavier drink. I don't know if it is spiced, but I think that it might be. So we'll see what it is. But maybe Untappd actually has a few more notes on this particular issue. Let's pull that up over here. Okay. So Icelandic Wee Heavy from Einstock. It is a Scotch ale / a wee heavy, and it is a healthy 8% alcohol by volume. Viking history in Scotland goes back 1,000 years. Even our brewmaster studied in Edinburgh, where he carefully surveyed the local brew. Our Scotch ale is the first of its kind to use Icelandic-grown birch smoked barley in collaboration with Eimverk Distillery in Garabæ. I am totally butchering that. We then add native Icelandic Angelica, a fabled herb used by Vikings past. Notice that is actually not hops. Our wee heavy is rich and hearty, with a touch of smokiness, and remains incredibly balanced. Your taste buds have no choice but to be conquered. So very poetic there. Clearly this... the grains here haven't been toasted, but they have been smoked, which is interesting. Generally, whenever I read that a particular... grain has been smoked, what it actually does is it gives the brew a slightly more earthier tone to it rather than a burn to it, rather than a roast to it. And so let's try and look for that. Let's go ahead and open this guy and see what the story is here. All right. Oh, and that was a terrible pour. Probably should have twisted my can just a bit more. I've got 50% head here, folks. Okay, so this is not a pretty pour, but it'll have to do it for us. And very strong notes of caramel here, very, very sweet. Fingernail ear. So it's got a rich cola-like flavor, I want to say. In terms of body, it is actually very, I want to say on the lighter end, maybe a 2 out of 5 in terms of body composition. It does have that smoky quality to it, in the sense that it's almost like peat, if you can think about it, maybe like a slight hint of charcoal when you taste it. But yeah, very rich, sweeter notes on it. It's actually quite nice. Even though it doesn't have that bitterness that would be provided by hops, just the smokiness of it actually provides a good balance for this particular brew. So it's delicious. I like it a lot, and it's got a healthy alcohol percentage, so it's gonna definitely hold us up well for the rest of the evening. Okay, so let me go ahead and update my ticker here and enter my entry on Untappd. In the meantime, you can listen to clarity. So there's that. I've had this a couple of times already on stream. Alright, and I think that's good for us. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and move into Radical Dreamers. Okay. So as you might recall, what I'm trying to do here is collect all of the endings for the game. And if my notes serve me correct, I was in the middle of getting the ending for Felicia's Light, and I need to go to Riddell's room. Okay, let me pull up that handy map that there we go. So, like I said, Radical Dreamers is a text adventure. There's no in-game map. And so having this little map over here is actually quite helpful. I'll try to shrink it over here so that it doesn't actually get in the way of the action. Okay. And I think we need to pick up from the most reindeers over here. Let's give this a shot. There were some stairs going down, and to the right, a dark side passage. If we keep going straight on, we'd arrive back at the terrace. Okay, so we can either go down the stairs, go to the terrace, to take the side passage, or turn back. I think we need to go down the stairs. Maybe that's the way to Riddell's room. The side passage is maybe the ballroom or the study. Let's go down the stairs. Slowly, we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into the blackness as we went. At the bottom, the path split. The way to the left continued onto the atrium that resembled a sort of plaza, while the path to the right was a winding passageway that trailed off into darkness. I'm gonna say it is probably the right what we're looking for. I think that makes sense. We went down the stairs, then took the passage to our right. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the right-hand side. Something smelled fresh and pleasant. Flowers? Was it coming from inside? I'm pretty sure that this is Riddell's room. And just because of that, I'm gonna go ahead and save. This one has no reindeer. Excuse me. That is a scary door opening sound. And according to this, I have to agree with Kit's plans. The room beyond was eerily still. There was a neatly made bed, a sideboard with a row of small wooden animal statues arranged on top, and a single flower in a vase on the table. Signs that someone used to live here. Used to. Everything was buried in a thick layer of dust that blew here and there in the breeze, coming in through the shattered window. The items air were nothing but mementos of a long since departed occupant. I don't think we'll be finding much in here, kid. Let's go. She didn't hear me. She was too busy peering into a chest big enough for her to climb inside. I went over to take a look. In it were a set of pale blue robes. They looked like something a nun might wear. Felicia. Felicia? Kid whispered a name I'd never heard before, and I could only repeat it in puzzlement. It didn't seem like she'd ever even noticed I was there until I spoke. Never mind, let's go. She frowned and turned on her heel. Ooh, okay. I didn't seem to agree with Kid, but okay. The passage outside the room continued to our left and right. The path to the right led deeper into the darkness of the manor. Meanwhile, going left would take us to the atrium and another branch. So I think at this point we need to make it to the treasure vault. Okay. And so in order to make it to the treasure vault, we're gonna have to go all the way back towards the terrace, toward the atrium. We continued down the corridor until we reached an intersection. There was a left turn in the corridor leading to some stairs going upward. The corridor also continued straight on toward the entrance of a large plaza-like atrium. Let's go back up. The passage to the stairway was short. With Kid leading the way, we started to climb the narrow staircase. At the top, we found another intersection. Taking the corridor to the right would lead us to a dead end with a large door, while the way to the left led to the terrace. The narrow side passageway in front of us was open. And so let's go towards the terrace, if I'm seeing. Okay. After a short walk down the corridor, the terrace came into view. Let's go out, continue down the corridor. A short way along the corridor, running from the right-hand side of the terrace, we found an ancient-looking door, again on our right, and I believe that's a clock tower room. Kid pressed an ear against it, listening for any signs of life. Dead quiet. Don't reckon there's anybody in there. We continued on. Yeah, better see what's at the end of this corridor first. Kid left the door alone and continued on down the corridor. We returned to creeping down the darkened hallways as silently as we could. Suddenly, the darkness felt opaque. Something like a thick haze floated in the air in front of us. And then it took form, like someone blowing smoke into a personal-shaped bottle. It was robed in a ragged shroud, and the sunken eyes glinted menacingly. It was the burning hatred that lingers even after death given form, it being driven by hatred for all living things. A ghost, bugger! That's us out! Kid bit her lip. There wasn't anything she or I could do to deal with an enemy that had no physical body. A voice boomed out behind him. Nagel had began casting a spell. Let's try to slip past the ghost. My eyes met Kid's and Nagel's, and without a word being exchanged between us, a plan was hatched. They'd both already seen an opening. Nagel quickly lobbed a spell at the ghost to distract it, and we slipped away while its attention was elsewhere. The ghost suddenly swelled in size, attempting to trap us within its spectral embrace and drain our life force. I could feel an incredible cold at the tips of my toes. I barely touched the ghost, but I could feel that a huge amount of energy had been drained from me in just that brief moment. There was no time to dwell on this brush with death. Having spotted an opening between the ghost and the wall, we quickly slipped through it and were away. I don't know that many enemy encounters in this game actually get resolved by running away. I better remember this one because it's very few instances in this game that I've actually made it unscathed. let's drink some water to help our throats here. The element which brings life. Continuing on down the corridor, we came across a rather sturdy-looking door on our left. A little further on stood a stairway leading upward.
Well, this door's clearly meant to keep something safe. If there ain't some kind of treasure behind it, me name ain't Kid. Sniff sniff, yup, that's the smell of cold hard cash, alright.
She muttered to herself as she began to inspect the door more closely. Let's go inside. And once again, I'm gonna quickly save. It was locked, but not for long. Maggie began waving a word of unlocking, but Kid beat him to the punch with a swift twist of her hairpin. It seemed almost suspiciously easy. I got the feeling Kid and Maggie thought the same thing. We inched into the room, our senses on high alert. We'd hoped we might find treasure vault, a hall of miracles stacked to the ceiling with glittering gold coins and jewels, but the sight that greeted us was very different. Which isn't to say there wasn't a treasure or two. There were jewels and precious metals, the kinds of things nobility and the rich like, but they were arranged in a very particular pattern. It was a massive diorama, a seascape rendered in a minute detail using priceless treasures. Glittering white crystals formed the crests of waves deep as valleys, which rose in great columns of agate. There was a reef made from jade, glinting with strange, hard light, atop which sat a mermaid of pearl with an enigmatic smile, silver hair, and scales of mica. I think this is the first time I've encountered this piece of art in this game, so this is definitely new. And amid the waves was a hand clutching at thin air and seemingly about to be swallowed by the water. I couldn't identify what it was made from, but it was stunningly realistic. It was an incredible work of art, the single moment of a great storm, crystallized and preserved forever. But it wasn't beauty that it conveyed to me. It was vividness filled me with an inexplicable dread. And though the scene was compared of countless precious stones, one stood out starkly from the rest. It was the stone the mermaid held, a jewel shaped like a lotus flower and drenched in a blood-red light. The frozen flame. We all knew it instantly. We'd found it. Just a second here. Not liking this camera angle. There we go.
Get the ladder out, Serge. I'm gonna grab the loot.
Having been lured by the siren's call, Kit could hardly contain her excitement. But something held me back. No, it felt like something was almost pushing me back. Whatever it was keeping me from sharing in Kit's sense of gleeful triumph. But I couldn't let my nerves get the better of me. I put on my most cheerful oh, there's a choice here. So I need to agree with Kit's plan here. But I couldn't let my nerves get the better of me. I put on my most cheerful voice. Coming right up. I took the pieces of a portable ladder from among my things. They were made from the light and sturdy yet pliable stalks of a plant that grows in the east, which made them perfect for bringing along on little expeditions like this. I tossed out the pieces one by one while Kit and Maggie put them together, as they'd done many times before. A few minutes later, we had a ladder long enough to cross the sea of jewels. Kit left the finishing touches to me as she dumped her heavy bag and weapons on the floor. She began to breathe in a strange rhythm, concentrating hard on the task ahead. It was a secret technique she'd learned somewhere that enabled her to reduce her weight to a fraction of its normal level. She practically floated over to the mermaid, the latter barely even bending. But her little trick did nothing to stop the trap that was sprung the moment she set foot on the reef. Oof. Ngah! As she reached for the frozen flame, wet fingers lashed out, their talons digging deep inside her arm. Bright red blood spurted from the wound. The mermaid's aquamarine eyes remained impassive, but her scales rustled as she began to move. There was an awful creaking sound as cogs within her pearlescent form began to grind against one another. Quicksilver coursed through the clockwork guardian's veins as she whirred into motion, preparing to deal the intruder who had dared set foot in her domain. At the same moment, the sea of jewels began moving like a real sea, as if the moment frozen in time had suddenly thawed. Crushed crystals that formed the crest of the waves began to beat against Kid mercilessly, as if trying to throw her from the reef. And before we knew it, she'd lost her footing. As I watched her fall, I caught sight of something even stranger. Welcome back, in I go. I guess not your favorite game, huh? Well, to each their own, I suppose. It was the hand I saw earlier. But it wasn't just a hand now. The whole body had been revealed. The whole corpse, I should say. It looked as if the last person who had set this gruesome mechanism in motion had been trapped there, frozen until such time as another annoying victim happened along. Kid! She was thrashing helplessly in the raging waves. Was she going to be the next victim of the monstrous machine? We had to do something. We couldn't leave her to die like this. It's hard to want to engage with you because these games sound pretty meow and visually look exhausting. Well, you got, all I can say, in I go is, do what you need to do. I'm not gonna force you to stick around. If this is not your, jam, then, you know, there's a million other streams that you could visit. But I appreciate the fact that you dropped by. Okay. And again, I appreciate you dropping by. And then the mermaid slipped into the waves, making straight for her. There was a flash of light from Magel's hand, followed by a silver needle, which shot through the air and struck the mindless automaton right in the eye. But the mechanical monstrosity didn't miss a beat. It was just another cog in a bigger machine, one whose sole purpose was to attack, to destroy, but a cog nonetheless. The true heart of this enormous mechanism lay elsewhere. Its jaw dropped open, as if suddenly dislocated. Rows of razor-sharp teeth glinted inside, teeth designed to tear flesh. Let's go with a brave choice. It was salty, real seawater, but how? I plunged in headfirst, but the waves were far more powerful than I had expected, and they battered me mercilessly, keeping me far from Kid. As I struggled to keep my head above water, the corpse I had seen before came bobbing up towards me. I was busy trying to shove it away when I noticed something strange about it. Its eyes were open. And not just that, but it was staring right at Kid. This is all the corpse is doing. With sheer instinct, I worked out the trap secret. I hurriedly grabbed the knives from my belt, sheath and all, and slammed it into the corpse's head. Splat! The skull shattered with a sickening crunch, and the waterlogged flesh slid off like so much rotten vegetable matter. And the next moment it was as if everything we'd just seen had been a bad dream. The tempestuous sea and the mermaid were motionless once more. All was still and hard as stone. What an event.
Kid lay on the ground, coughing and spluttering. Her little dunking hadn't done her much good. She was retching violently enough to turn even my stomach. That was kind of like a pseudo battle, to be perfectly honest with you. And then I saw it. She was clutching the frozen flame in one hand, clutching it so tightly that it would surely leave a mark. I see. The curse slowly overrides the perception of its victims. Not only does this prevent them from acting effectively, but even if they keep their wits about them, they have no way of knowing which part of the mechanism to aim for. Clever. Magiel was poking curiously at the corpse, the only thing that hadn't now transformed back into a mass of jewels. Looking at it made me feel sick. I'd had enough of this horrible scene. Well, we got what we came for. Reckon it's time we skedaddled. Kid seemed in no great hurry to stick around either, so we left. Okay, the corridor outside the room stretched off to the left and right. The path to the right led to the terrace. So I think now we're supposed to head to... Lynx's room. Okay, so I think we need to go back. We're in the treasure vault here, so we need to go back past Riddell's room. And I think we don't need to dialogue too much until we make it all the way to Lynx's room. Oh, something was wrong. Didn't there used to be a terrace here? Kid said what we were all thinking. The moonlight picked out with cold precision a corridor whose flagstones stretched off into endlessness in a manner hard for the human mind to comprehend. Maybe we just forgot how spacious the corridor was here. Yeah, that's probably it. Terrace is probably just a little further on. No, I remember that tree. I memorized its outline to guide us on our way back through the forest, stated Magiel flatly, torpedoing my admittedly vain attempt to cling to reason. We all fell silent. I think we need to keep moving forward. There's no point in going back. Then began to march stiffly onward, trying not to lose our nerve. Back here again, huh? Muttered Kid impatiently. Somehow, even though we tried to continue straight on, we found ourselves confronted with the same tree Magiel had pointed out earlier. And of course, there was still no sign of the terrace. What the bloody hell's going on? This doesn't make any sense. And I don't bloody like it. This is your bloody fault, Serge, she yelled. My fault? It's not like I have any idea what's going on either. If this mess is anyone's fault, it's yours. I never wanted to come to this stupid manor in the first place. You made me. Interesting. Okay, interesting. The curse imprisons its victims in an endless corridor, forcing them to wander until their sanity slips away. A devilish trap indeed. I'm assuming that this is Magiel talking. I see that the walls are almost imperceptibly distorted. An ordinary person could do very well to lose their mind here. With that, Magiel quickly grabbed me and Kid by the wrists and pushed hard on some kind of pressure point. I think the interesting thing here is that the game actually does a very poor job of explaining who's talking sometimes. But yet I guess I've subconsciously picked up on a few details here and there that actually suggest which of the party members is actually talking. I'm rarely 100% right, but I think I'm certainly better than simply guessing. Of course, Kid has the very explicit
Australian accent, but Magil is sometimes a little bit more difficult to catch. I realized that I was regaining my grip on the situation. Whatever he'd done, it had called my mind. And I could see that kid had regained her composure too. She was looking somewhat sheepishly down at the ground. I wonder if this is a function of this particular scenario, or if this is like a random encounter almost. It would seem that the Lord of the Manor is not keen to let us leave, muttered Magil. Kit raised her head and looked him dead in the eye. Good, 'cause I ain't going nowhere. Hold tight, Lynxie. We're coming for ya. More of the bloody same, spat Kid angrily. Just like before, there was no terrace in sight. That's interesting. Wonder if I'm supposed to go back. Let's keep going down the corridor. Maybe this time things will be different. Okay, a short way along the corridor, running from the right-hand side of the terrace, we found an ancient-looking door, again on our right. I think this is the clock tower again? Let's continue on. Yeah, better see what's at the end of the corridor first. Kid left the door alone and continued on down the corridor. We returned to the creeping down the darkened hallways as silently as we could. Wait, but I didn't actually turn back. I wanted to go back towards the terrace. Bah, still stuck, spat Kid. And she was right, the terrace was nowhere to be seen. Keep going. Okay, we took the corridor leading from the left-hand side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. The path to the right led down the stairs. The path to the left was a dark side passageway. Okay, so we actually made it past the non-existent terrace this time. Let's go down the stairs. Slowly we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into the blackness as we went. At the bottom, the path split. The way to the left continued to an atrium, while the path to the right was a winding passageway that trailed off into darkness. And so let's continue to the right, past Riddell's room into Lynx's room. We went down the stairs, then took the passage to our right. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the right-hand side. It was the room where something had caught Kit's attention, so let's continue on our way. It's funny. Yeah, funny is it? Then why ain't you laughing? Here, maybe I can help you. Kid, stop it. I'm serious. Whatever, just thought I'd liven things up a little. The tickling stopped, and like a light going out, Kid's expression snapped back to its usual resting scowl. So the thing you thought was funny, it's that we ain't seen a living soul since we set foot in this place, right? Even after wandering around for hours. Well, I'm right, ain't I? Oh, that was Kid. She looked at me expectantly. I nodded silently, too awestruck at her sudden insight to say a word. Now that I heard it put into words by someone else, the whole thing seemed even stranger.
If you seek answers, I think this is Magel. If you seek answers, perhaps you can ask the Lord of the Manor directly. Nagel thrust his chin forward, gesturing at a dark mahogany door ahead. Its grandeur was practically an announcement that beyond it lay the Lord of the Manor's chambers. Alright, let's go ahead and save here, just in case there's a fight. "You ready, boys?" said Kid before pushing the door open. Kid opened the door and slipped quietly into the room. This was Lynx's room, or at least it had been. Wait, I'm just being confusing. I need to pace myself. It's all flooding back too fast. What I meant to say that it was clearly Lynx's room, but that Lynx wasn't there anymore. Well, he was, but he was dead. He and a knight from some foreign land appeared to have killed each other at the same time. This is unexpected. I can't believe this. We would have heard rumors if he'd up and died, wouldn't we? I had to agree, but we'd heard nothing of the kind. How was that possible? Lynx was so well known that anything and everything he did got talked about eventually. If he'd been found dead, there was no way we wouldn't have heard about it. How could his body have just lain here all this time without word getting out? No! Wake up, Lynx, you skunk. You got things to answer for. Killing all those people, taking Felicia from me. You can't die without paying for all that. It's not bloody fair. It's interesting that Kid is actually talking about this Felicia character, and it's only limited to this particular scenario. Slow down with all this reading. Reading is education. Laughter over. Oh, where did my map go? Okay. Kid was clearly in shock. We can't be the first people to have found them, can we? Maybe someone did, but they never made it back alive to tell the tale. I almost got the feeling she thought she was listening to the moon by saying this. She wasn't. This was serious, deadly serious. An ominous silence descended. Strange, said Nagel finally. He'd been eyeing Lynx's body with a cold, almost scientific interest. Yeah, quite the little scene we've happened across, eh? Bet he never saw that coming. He tried to make light of the situation as if to dispel the miasma of fear that had descended. But as always, Nagel was less than receptive and continued to coldly assess the situation. His corpse shows no sign of life whatsoever. No kidding. I had no idea what he was trying to tell us. When a person dies, their mind and their will, what some call their soul, leave the body. Their life essence, however, remains, slowly dissipating as the body breaks down. Well, he doesn't look too fresh to me. Sure he hasn't all leaked out already?
Kid seemed to want the conversation to be over as quickly as possible so he could get out of there. It is true that not a single shred of vital essence remains, but this is not normal. Far more strangely, I cannot detect signs of any such essence ever having been present in his body. For every last vestige to have vanished is. For once, Magel seemed to be completely at a loss for an explanation. Maybe Lynx and the guy he was fighting were vampires? Oh, that was strange. I offered, desperately calling on my woefully inadequate knowledge of the supernatural. I wasn't too keen to find out. I'd seen enough already. That caught me off guard. I was as ready to leave as Kid was. But either Magel hadn't noticed, or he'd chosen to put his interest in getting to the bottom of the mystery first. No, you are correct that vampirism would explain the lack of vital essence, but vampires retain their souls. And they do not lie still for want of essence. They set out to prowl the night in search of it, or an endless quest for blood.
Alright, that's enough of that. So what you're saying is this corpse has no life or soul in it, yeah? What do we care exactly?
Kid glared at him, demanding an answer, and quickly. For once, she and I were of the same mind. Something strange was going on. It wasn't just this room. The whole manor was steeped in something very wrong indeed. Despite being completely empty as far as we'd seen, a presence lurked in every corner. And it was clear, don't ask me how, that this was no ordinary haunting.
Listen, we've got the frozen flame, and Lynx is dead. We're done here, and we're leaving. You got that? Kid patience finally got the better of her. Very well, assuming we are permitted to leave.
Oh, that was Magel. Assuming we are permitted to leave. He was staring at a large mirror embedded in the wall at the back of the room. Whoa.
Kid, you've come. You've finally come. It was the girl again.
She wore an expression of unutterable sadness. Something tells me that our friend here wishes us to stay. Let's see. Let me ask about her. Kid, you don't know her, do you?
Felicia?
I barely managed to stammer out the question, but it didn't matter. Kid wasn't listening. Her eyes were locked onto the girl, an imploring look on her face. Magel stepped closer to the mirror and began to intone a spell. What is it? What do you want from us? He asked.
It hurts. It hurts so much. I need your souls.
The mirror shattered with an ear-splitting crash. The girl was gone. A blood-curdling scream echoed around the room, but was just as quickly drowned out by an unbearable metallic screeching. That's Lynx's voice, stammered Kid, looking at her right hand in horror. A blood-red light was seeping from her clenched fist. It was as if a frozen flame was sending out tentacles in an attempt to seize her body. What is that? Gamma Epsilon?
Michael finished off the spell he started casting when he stepped up to the mirror. I feel like half of the things that this party does in this game would not be possible without Magiel's access to high-level magic. You probably just need him for most things. Good wee heavy. Gah! Gah! A bright crimson light filled the room as Lynx's voices twisted with agony. Did you get him, Mag? He was trying his hardest to contain the sorcery that was flying around the room. It looked like every muscle in his body was straining with the effort. No, you fool. This alone won't hold him. Take Kid and get out of here. I looked back and saw that she'd collapsed on the floor, white as a sheet, and yet her hand was still clasped tightly around the frozen flame. I threw her over my shoulder and fled into the corridor. Magel followed hot on our heels. Kid? Kid! Ugh, where am I? She came to, seeming almost vulnerable for a brief moment. What do you think we are? 2. Seems you're back to normal. Magel had been holding up 2 fingers as he spoke, and Kid had completely ignored his actual question and counted them instead. That's funny. The unspoken understanding they shared was beyond me. It still is. And as an aside, the actual answer to Magel's question was the corridor on the first floor, near the terrace we can't get to. He suggested that we head back towards the magic circle we'd found earlier as soon as Kid had regained her composure. Let's see. What is the Great Chamber? So the actual next step that we have to go to is go back to the ballroom. In order to get to the ballroom, maybe it's the Great Chamber? Okay. The magic circle resembles something I once saw long ago, muttered Magil under his breath, along with something about finding a way. And what if you can't find a way? Asked Kid casually, as if she'd never lost consciousness at all. I was relieved that she seemed to be okay. More than okay, in fact, chipper even. Then I fear we will spend the rest of our lives in this manner. Well, that sucks. Fortunately, without food, the rest of our lives will only be about a week. Very clinical of Magil here. That didn't exactly fill me with relief. On another topic entirely, he then launched out of nowhere into some protracted pondering about the fact that the robes the ghostly girl had been wearing were very distinctive. If I didn't know better, I'd have sworn he'd noticed that he'd brought the mood down and changed the subject to try and cheer me up. They're nun robes from the Temple of the Four. Kid's mood, however, seemed to darken the moment the girl was mentioned. Oh yeah, isn't that where you grew up? Magil had told me about it a while back. Apparently a nun from the Temple of the Four had taken in Kid and some other abandoned children. The woman had a similar childhood herself, and Kid had grown very attached to her as a result. But when Kid was still quite young, the lord of the region, Lynx, had summoned the nun to his manor, and she never returned. Soon afterward, she had snuck out of the temple and tried to make her way to Lynx's manor to find her friend. But she was still only a child and couldn't make it far. She returned home to find the temple and the village that surrounded it in ruins, and everyone dead. Luckily for her, Magil was a frequent visitor to the temple and arrived not long after. He found Kit surrounded by bodies that had already shriveled and dried up like mummies. There she sat, silently, glaring in the direction of Lynx's manor, her lips tightly sealed. And they stayed sealed. It was years before Kit spoke again, and according to Maggle, she hadn't shed a single tear since. That's some backstory to a Kit that we've never gotten before. Here goes. Kit's voice snapped me back into the moment. Her hand was on the door, ready to push it open. I hadn't realized that we were already back at the Great Chamber. I should have saved. This time the door made that eerie noise I had first expected as it swung open, scraping on my already taut nerves. Okay, so I think this is the ballroom, the place with the giant organ. We headed straight for the pipe organ. I pressed the same keys on the keyboard as before. For a moment, I thought the contraption might not work a second time, but I needn't have worried. The stairs to the hall below appeared just as they had last time. But this time, the place they led us to looked very different. Before, it had been too dark to see. This time, it was as bright as day. Someone's there. Welcoming committee, eh? Just what we need. The tension was visible on Kit and Maggle's faces. Mine, on the other hand, probably looked outright terrified. Well, can't keep him waiting. Kit spurred us back into motion. We had no choice but to press on. And here we have the circle. Wait a second. It was completely different down there from how it had been before. This is probably the most elaborate, but yet cheap background that I've encountered in this game. The room was filled with light. The presence we had felt before was alive now, and a swirling spectral energy filled the room. In response, the outline of the magic circle on the floor pulsed with a powerful garnet red light, welcoming our arrival with an almost palpable sense of glee. Under less ominous circumstances, one might even have described the scene as beautiful, if one had been prepared to ignore the very disturbing sight at the center of it. There, in the middle of the storm, we saw him, and I believe that's Lynx. It's just a bit. Okay. Lynx. Kit gave an unconscious growl, teeth clenched behind her perfect pink lips. That's an odd detail to point out at this particular moment. I'd never laid eyes on him before, but I knew it was him the moment I saw him. This was, without a doubt, the form that sallow, desiccated corpse had taken in life. This was the man behind it all, and we were finally face to face with him. This time Kit's growls were stronger, more deliberate. She'd seemed almost scared before, but every trace of fear had vanished. Now it was hatred that governed her, overriding all other emotions. I wonder if she might even be feeling some kind of mad delight, a perverse, insane glee, at finally getting her chance for revenge. For his part, despite being faced with his mortal foe, assuming he shared Kit's sense of enmity, Lynx spoke in a calm, soft voice, almost as gentle as a whisper. Return the frozen flame to me if you would be so kind. You are carrying my very soul. You think I'm just gonna hand it over because you asked nicely? Why would I go to all the trouble of nicking it if I was gonna give it up that easily? Kit's visible agitation stood in stark contrast to Lynx's cold composure. She'd taken the frozen flame from her pocket and was gripping it tightly in her hand. Crimson light blazed from between her fingers. What happened to you anyway, and what the hell's going on with your mansion? He answered almost sorrowfully. As I am sure you have seen, my physical body perished in a scuffle with an assassin. Thankfully, by employing an ancient rite, I was able to preserve my soul in the form of a jewel. Alas, the price I paid was to take on a form incapable of traveling beyond the confines of this magic circle. So I guess he exists within this circle. My powers are lost to me. Please return my soul. So I think we have the high ground in terms of bartering here. I don't think Lynx can actually do anything to us. Alas indeed, Lynxy boy. But if you think I'm gonna take pity on you after everything you've done, you're nuts as well as evil. Kid's almond eyes narrowed and her voice quivered with rage. You think dying once is enough to pay for your crimes? Your suffering's only just beginning. Kid pulled the arm, holding the frozen flame back like an archer preparing to lose an arrow. No one's ever gonna pity you, you bastard. You don't deserve pity. She twisted, throwing all her strength into a huge swing, and brought the jewel hurtling down toward the unyielding stone floor. Wait, kid, no! She froze where she stood. Another voice had joined Magill's as he cried out. Gah, you little wretch! Lynx seemed to warp and bend, and another figure appeared in his place. It was the girl. The same girl who had gazed at us so pleadingly from the window when we'd first entered the manor. Kid, smashing the jewel, losing yourself in your rage, it's exactly what Lynx wants. If you lose yourself entirely, he will consume your soul, just as he did mine. You will become another stepping stone on his road to resurrection. Kid, the circle. Oh wait. Kid, the circle. I know now where I've seen it before. It's a soul hex. It consumes the souls of any with whom it comes in contact, and uses them to break the ties that bind an imprisoned spirit, restoring it to life. Magill, usually so calm and collected, couldn't quite keep the horror out of his voice. Consuming souls? Suddenly it all came together in my mind. The fact that the manor was deserted, that once we'd grabbed the frozen flame we'd been unable to leave, that the ghost we'd encountered had fled in fear of being consumed by it, and that it had been so easy to acquire the jewel in the first place, it could only mean the entire manor was a trap. What? Felicia. Just as I was coming to my realization, a voice spoke the name, a name I had heard before. Felicia. I came for you. I finally made it. It was Kid. I'd never heard Kid speak so plaintively before. She sounded almost like a child calling out to her mother. And then I remembered who Felicia was. She was the nun who had looked after Kid, the only person she'd ever been close to. Sister Felicia. So, I'm assuming that at this point in this particular route, Sister Felicia is taking the place of Luca. Felicia, Oh, quit, Kid. Sweet little kid. How you grown? Wretch! Lynx's face, contorted with agony, emerged from Felicia's chest and then disappeared again. So are they one and the same? I'm grateful you came for me, kid, but I cannot come home. You must flee this place while I can still contain him. No, I won't lead you here. I finally found you. You have to come home. You have to. You always were a willful one. A gentle smile crossed Felicia's face for a moment. But I cannot leave. I must atone for my father's sins. Father. He knew that they were coming for him, that his life was in danger, so he made certain preparations. She was struggling to speak. Her efforts to overcome Lynx's control were truly testing her. He conjured up the hex to see before you, a curse that consumes the souls of others in order that the departed soul can be returned to life. But in order to create it, he needed the soul of a blood relative, his daughter. Forgive me, I could not tell anyone. This monster was my father. I was born out of wedlock to a woman of no standing, but he was my father nonetheless. Kid's eyes opened with a wide shock. Okay, so she's related to Lynx. The moment the assassin slew him, his soul consumed mine in order to trigger the creation of the frozen flame, which set about consuming the souls of everyone in the manor. But even this harvest of souls would not suffice to bring him back, so he had consumed those of all in his domain. And yet he hungered. Still, this was not enough to bring about his resurrection. So he decided to use the jewel that contained the soul as a lure to bring unsuspecting thieves to the manor. I must atone for my part in these terrible crimes. Kid didn't say a word. There was nothing she could say. And neither could I. I barely have the strength left to contain him. You must leave this place, dear, sweet little kid. My little girl. Felicia, Lynx still lacks the soul she needs to complete his resurrection, correct? Nagel's booming voice broke the silence. I turned to see that he had been working on. I guess you'd call it rewriting part of the magic circle. Felicia gave him a questioning look for a moment, which then gave way to a strangely peaceful smile. Thank you, Magel. It seems I am indebted to you once more. Adjust these. For the first time since I'd known him, I saw him smile. Perhaps, but we'll meet again, one day, many years from now, if I'm lucky. You can repay me then. Now then, Serge. Having come to feel like something of a fifth wheel in this point, I jumped with surprise at hearing my name. I'm going to force the soul exit into action. Force Lynx's soul back into his body, as ill-prepared and decaying as it is. Serge, I need you to. You can't do this. If we go through with this, Felicia's gonna... Kid had suddenly come to. I'll need you to keep Kid away so that she doesn't interfere. I don't quite remember what happened next. There was a shine of magic circle's light, a swiftly swallowed scream from Lynx, Nagel's towering frame making sigils in the air, Felicia's smile, and Kid's tears. When I came to, I was lying on the floor, holding Kid. Her eyes were red from crying. Our clothes were torn in places, and we were both covered in cuts and scratches. Maggie was unconscious on the other side of the room, his energy completely spent. And on the floor, there was nothing, not even a trace left. Eventually, the moon rose again, and I stayed sitting on the floor, my mind blank, until Maggie and Kid finally returned to consciousness. I guess there was nothing else we could do in the end. I didn't say it to anyone in particular, and sure enough, neither of them replied. As we walked side by side through the forest, I turned back for one last look. This time, there was a gentle quiet surrounding the manor, true peace at last. The frozen flame, which Kid had held onto so tightly, vanished, leaving only an imprint in her hand. And a familiar scene. And so ends another tale. Perhaps one day I'll see Kid, Maggie, and Felicia again. One day, somewhere, at another time, in another world. Perhaps none of us will even realize it. But that's a story for another day. For now, I must put down my pen. I closed my grandfather's diary, and then from downstairs I heard my mother calling. "Did you hear me? Your friend's here." Nimble footsteps charged up the stairs. The door flew open. In tumbled a young girl, a girl who seemed somehow familiar. "Hey, Serge, it's a beautiful day for adventuring. I found a rundown old manor off in the woods to the north. You want to go exploring? Come on, put the book down and let's get out of here." Certainly an interesting twist to the tale here, with the inclusion of a nun that took care of Kid, who just so happened to be Lynx's daughter, and Lynx's plan to resurrect himself past death. Alright, and there goes one more ending. While the credits roll, I'm actually going to take a quick break, and I'll be back on the other side. See you then. Let's go with Alt so you can continue watching this. Okay, and welcome back to the Ales and Fails Twitch stream. I'm your host, Ale Wolf, otherwise known as Ale Gentleman Streamer, Beer Goggles 21, the excellence of an execution. And I can't hear anything here. Let's see what's going on. Okay, there it goes. We're playing Spring here. And so we just completed one more ending in Radical Dreamers. This one is known as Felicia's Light. Like I said, an interesting twist on the story of Kid's upbringing and Lynx's demise. We got there and he was already dead. So I want to say that a lot of these endings in Radical Dreamers don't fit with one another. Like the information is very conflicting, and so I don't believe that they're actually concurrent in any sort of way or form. I think it's kind of just like interesting nuggets. We get a little bit more character development with each of them, but I don't know that they reveal any particular specifics, nor that they are in any sort of way canonical to the main story. And to be perfectly honest with you, the Radical Dreamers / Chrono Cross timeline, I feel like because you've got these alternate dimensions happening and alternate endings, it's very difficult to suggest that there's any particular canonicity to any of it. I would assume that the good ending of Chrono Cross really is the most truest version of whatever story you want to tell here. But I don't know that there's any strong arguments for it. So there's that. Here's hoping that Chrono, Marl, and Luca are still running around out there somewhere. But before we continue our deep dive into Radical Dreamers, let's have one more round of the carousel. I've had this a number of times on stream. This is Old Rasputin. It is a Russian Imperial Stout. Well, what is a stout exactly? A stout is an ale that is brewed using particular grains known as there's like crystal malts, there's chocolate malts, they're just darker malts. And so they brew dark. Not only that, but they are toasted before the boiling process, which gives different access to the sugars that they bestow upon the brew. That is in a way one of the main distinctions between a stout and a porter. Now in terms of Russian Imperial, that is a style, and I think it largely means that it has higher alcohol content than your standard stout. I think that's how they were made historically in Russia. So let's see what Untapped has to say on the matter. Not that you haven't seen this a million times by now. So a healthy 9% alcohol by volume, produced in the tradition of 18th century English brewers who supplied the court of Russia's Catherine the Great. Old Rasputin seems to develop a cult following wherever it goes. It's a rich, intense brew with big, complex flavors and a warming finish. As you can see, I've had this 13 times. It's a very solid closer to a lot of streams, I gotta say. It's not the tastiest of beers, but it certainly makes you slow down and reminisce a bit more. So that's that. Let's go ahead and taste what this is like. And I'm actually surprised that the old throat is actually still holding up. I had almost assumed that I needed to close out and like change to wave race or something like that, but you know what? When there's a will, there's a way, I guess. And so as you can see in just a couple of minutes, the stout pours opaque. No light actually gets past it. And this is a very sad pour, folks. Never do this. Make sure that you twist your glass and your can while you're pouring. Otherwise, you're gonna end with some mess like this. But yeah, very strong coffee-ish notes coming from this one already. Very strong roast from it, like a coffee roast, of course. Bang an ale. Let me try to drink through this foam.
So it's a bitterness, but it doesn't come from hops themselves. Stouts rarely showcase their hops. They're generally sweeter. This is actually just it comes from like the roastiness of itself. It's very coffee-ish. It's got very strong chocolate notes as well, like a bitter, earthy quality to it. But it's not something that has disdain. It's actually something that I just need to sip on. It's almost like a whiskey if I were a whiskey drinker, but in beer form. Because if you do actually taste it, it's got some very slight sweetness to it, which is actually quite compelling and very captivating. So I like it. It takes a while to grow on you. I gotta admit, probably the first couple of times that I got an old recipe now, I was like, well, this is something that satisfies the I need to get tipsy part of the evening back when I was younger, and then I actually started appreciating it. So it's been a journey for me. Let me go ahead and update my ticker just in case anybody comes into the stream and wonders, hey, what is this guy drinking? Like, why is he sipping on something and not letting me know what it is? Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna check it in. I don't think I really need to write a particular notes on it. I think everyone knows how I feel about it at this point. And with that, let's go back to the game. Let's see what ending we should probably do next. Okay. Okay, so we've got 4 out of 7. We got 3, 6, and 7 that we haven't done. So, Kid and the Sunflower is something we did before but failed to save. And then we got 2 more. Maybe let's go number 6 first. I doubt that we'll actually reach it tonight, but let's make good headway there. We've got a good solid 30 minutes at the very least. And here we are back in Radical Streamers. And I think we choose continue on this one. Yeah, I think we choose continue on this one. That makes sense, right? And so this one is called Paradeus, the Mystery Mega Weapon. The old lady's tip-off was right on the money. The counterspell on the barrier around the outer walls could have done a real number on us. Kit's plain, unadorned braid flicked back and forth across her shoulders as she walked. We picked our way through the elaborate lattice of Manor's magic shields, moving in closer and closer to Lord Lynx's stronghold. There were 3 of us, Kid, Magill, and me. I watched as Kid's braid flick back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I started feeling very sleepy indeed. I tried and failed to stifle an enormous yawn. And I think we need to fall asleep here. Which is the weirdest thing. You're following somebody behind, and just because their braid swings back and forth, you fall asleep. Surge! Oi, Surge! I'm talking to you! My head jerked upward as I snapped back to consciousness. Idiot that I was, I'd managed to drift off. As I came back to my senses, I looked up to see the hulking shadow of Lynx's Manor looming over us. How does somebody fall asleep in this situation? Wakey, wakey, sleepyhead. We've got work to do.
Her words had hardly reached me before she jumped out onto the terrace and disappeared within. Ach, wait up, kid! Flustered, I rushed after her. A corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It seemed equally dark and chilly in both directions. Alright, where's our way in? Kit's casual comments settled our nerves. Maggie quietly surveyed our surroundings. Meanwhile, I found myself distracted by how cold the sweat on my forehead felt. It was only when I reached to wipe the sweat from my brow and turned my head slightly that I happened to see it. A soft glimmer of light. I think in this particular route I'm supposed to ignore it. At least I thought that was what I saw, a gentle glow coming from a decorative window close to the ceiling. But as much as I strained my eyes to try and catch it again, I couldn't. Oi, Serge, you'd better not be sleeping on the job. We'll leave you for the guards to find. Kit and Maggie were already far down the passageway. How long had I been standing there? I rushed after them. It was way too early to start trying Kit's patience. So I'm gonna rush after them. A corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It seemed equally dark and chilly in both directions. Okay, so for this ending, the first thing I need to do is go to the treasure vault. Let me get my map back. Here we go. We're at the terrace where we start. Let's go to the treasure vault. Jeez, suddenly the darkness felt opaque. Something, like a thick haze, floated in the air in front of us. And then it took form like someone blowing smoke into a person-shaped bottle. Is this a ghost? It was robed in a ragged shroud, and its sunken eyes glinted menacingly. It was the burning hatred that lingers even after death given form. A being driven by hatred for all living things. A ghost. Bugger. That's us out. Kit bit her lip. There wasn't anything she or I could do to deal with an enemy that had no physical body. A voice boomed out from behind me. Maggie had begun casting a spell. I think we have to dodge. I spotted an opening and tried to slip past the ghost. My ass met Kid's and Magill's, and without a word being exchanged between us, a plan was hatched. They'd both already seen an opening. Magill quickly lobbed the spell at the ghost to distract it, and we slipped away while its attention was elsewhere. The ghost suddenly swelled in size, intending to trap us within its spectral rays and drain our life force. I could feel an incredible cold at the tip of my toes. I barely touched the ghost, but I could feel that a huge amount of energy had been drained from me in just that brief moment. But there was no time to dwell on this brush with death. Having spotted an opening between the ghost and the wall, we quickly slipped through it and were away. Nice. A short way along the corridor running from the right-hand side of the terrace, we found an ancient-looking door, again on our right. Kit pressed an ear against it, listening for any signs of life. Dead quiet. Don't reckon there's anybody in there. So that's the clock tower. Like I said, we need to make it to the treasure vault. Yeah, I better see what's at the end of the corridor first. Kit left the door alone and continued on down the corridor. We returned on creeping down the darkened hallways as silently as we could. Continuing on down the corridor, we came across a rather sturdy-looking door on our left. A little further on stood a stairway leading upward. Well, this door's clearly meant to keep something safe. If there ain't some kind of treasure behind it, me name ain't Kid. Sniff, sniff. Yup, that's the smell of cold hard cash, alright, she muttered as to herself as she began to inspect the door more closely. Let's go ahead and save here. There we go. 4 reindeers. What time have we got? Okay, we still got about 30 minutes. Let's go inside. Bah! What am I, stupid? Of course it's bloody locked. Kid had tried the door handle a few times before giving it a grumpy kick. Bloody door's got a magic barrier on it, and the bloody barrier's got a barrier of its own to boot. It'll take more than me putting the boot in to get through all that. Let's see. Hold on a second here, folks. I see, and then unless we find the key, we don't have a hope of getting inside. Reckon I can handle a key hunt, especially if it's that idiot Lynx who's hidden it. If we can find this room, I'll sniff it out in 2 seconds flat. Just you watch. There was little more we could do here, so we decided to look elsewhere. That's, okay. The vault key was, okay, so I guess we need to find, the key here. In the same way that we found it in the first ending. Let's see. I don't even remember how we did it the first time around, do you? Let me look at the notes for the first ending here. And of course I'm just looking at a wiki. I guess I'm going to have to do a slightly deeper dive into Google here. Rabbit Hole Dreamers. Walk through. Control F is your friend, of course. Vault key. Okay, it seems like I need to go to Lynx's quarters to look for the vault key. Maybe. We'll see. We continued down the corridor, eventually coming across the door to our left. The corridor continued on back to the terrace. After a short walk, the terrace came into view. We kept moving. We took the corridor leading from the left-hand side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. The path to the right led down the stairs. The path to the left was a dark side passage, and the main corridor continued straight downward. So let's go down the stairs. Slowly we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into blackness as we went. At the bottom the path split. Way to the left continued to an atrium that resembled a sort of plaza, while the path to the right was a winding passageway that trailed off into darkness. So let's go to past Riddell's room. Eventually we came across an ornate door to the right hand side. Something inside smelled fresh and pleasant. Flowers? Was it coming from inside? Let's continue. Leading the group as usual, Kit suddenly stopped. "What's that?" She jabbed her finger at something in the darkness. Straining my eyes, I could see a pale white bundle of something shaking in the shadows, get ready for a random encounter. "Oh, that's strange." I moved in front of Kit to try to get a better look, and then suddenly the strange presence started crawling across the floor toward us at an unbelievable speed. I didn't have time to brace myself. The white figure reached my foot, then reared up to its full height. It was a skeleton, wasn't it? The skeleton and I stood face to face, its empty eye sockets staring straight at me, or seeming to at least. Let's tackle. I charged in to tackle the skeleton. Yah! There was a crunching sound and a clattering of bones as the skeleton was knocked back by the blow. Its body split clean into two at the waist. "Better luck next time," muttered Kit dryly. As if in response, the skeleton's upper body picked itself up from the ground, turning its skull towards me. Balancing its body with its left hand, it then pulled the skull from its head with its right hand. "What's it doing?" Before I could get the words out, it had heaved its skull at me. Dodge. Whoosh! The skull sailed past me as quickly as I stepped aside. Ow! Only to have smashed into Kid, who was standing right behind me. I felt like I remember that happening before. "That bloody hurt. Why did you move out of the way for it?" She returned the favor by thumping me in the back of the head. Maggie walked over to where the skull lay on the floor and stamped on it, shattering it to pieces. The rest of the skeleton collapsed, falling apart with a clatter. It didn't move after that. "We're done here. Let's get moving." I was starting to feel a little worse for the wear. I was going to have to be more careful from now on, or this was going to end badly. "Well, that was another fine bloody mess. What did we even bring you for, Serge?" Kit's cold stare pierced through me like a javelin made of ice. Hold on a second here, folks. Just dealing with something. Interesting. Okay. We went down the dark passageway, eventually finding ourselves at a sturdy-looking, immaculately polished door. Kid sniffed at the air. "Just as I thought, something stinks here. I reckon we found the beast's lair, lads." In the darkness, Kid's lips twisted into a grin that turned my blood cold. And let's save here. Kid opened the door and slept inside. It was Lynx's room, but he didn't seem to be around. Huh. The bugger's gone and scarpered because he heard I was coming. There was something deeply unpleasant about the room. There wasn't anything unusual about the furniture and fittings. Not how they looked or how they were made, but taken as a whole, it all felt discordant. Was this a reflection of Lynx? A seemingly ordinary facade that hid a disturbing truth only some could see. Right, I bet we'll find the key to the vault in here, or a clue about where to find it. I started searching through the room. The desk drawers, the paintings on the wall, the vase on top of the side table. Why did I say that way? I left no stone unturned. There didn't seem to be anything suspicious. But as I scanned the room, something unusual caught my eye. There was a pedestal in one corner with a significant-looking scarlet cloth drawn over it. I slowly raised my hand towards it. I think my voice needs a short break here, folks. Okay, let's keep going. I slowly raised my hand toward it. I carefully pulled the cloth away, revealing a mirror. It was old-fashioned and of an elaborately decorated style I'd seen before, and it was a reflected statue of Venus. Suddenly, the head of the statue shone with light. What is your desire? The mirror, it's speaking! Kid and Magill ran to my side. There's no need for panic. It's a whispering mirror, nothing more, Magill said flatly. Oh, of course, a whispering mirror. You see one of these every day, all the time. What's one of those? A magical mirror in which a spirit dwells. The spirit can freely move between its own and other mirrors, and will share its wisdom with those who ask. Interesting. What should I ask it? We should ask where the key to the vault is. Do you know where the key to the vault is? The mirror's reflection rippled and changed to reveal a room with numerous bookshelves. A deep, sonorous voice spoke. You will find the key in the place I have revealed, the study. It is inside a book with a purple cover in the furthest bookshelf from the door. The image of the study vanished from the mirror, and the voice went silent. It appears the spirit has left another mirror, commented Magill. To the study then. As I made to leave the room, a low voice rumbled through the air, stopping me dead in my tracks. Beware, he knows. Was it the voice in the mirror again? What did it mean? Hurry up or we're leaving you behind, Serge, called Kid from outside. Flustered, I rushed after her. Alright, well, let's make our way to the study. The corridor stretched out beyond the door. We retraced our steps. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the left-hand side. And let's continue. We continued down the corridor until we reached an intersection. There was a left turn in the corridor leading to some stairs going upward. The corridor also continued straight on towards the entrance to a large plaza-like atrium. I'm so glad that a lot of these alternate endings don't involve that other quarter of the house. It's mostly kept to like the right side of the terrace and Riddell's and Lynx's room thus far. So let's go up. The passage to the stairway was short. With Kid leading the way, we started to climb the narrow staircase. At the top, we found another intersection. Taking the corridor to the right would lead us to a dead end with a large door, while the way to the left led to the terrace. The narrow side passage in front of us was open. I think the narrow side passage is what leads to the study, while the large door is the ballroom. We headed down the side passage, and at the end of it came to an old, immaculately polished door.
say right here. Kid gently pushed the door ajar and peeked into the room. The next thing I knew, she slipped inside. Maggie and I followed. Looks like a study. The room was lit by the moonlight coming through the long, slender windows, slanting down in pale beams through the darkness. It was pretty big for a study, with an immaculate antique desk dominating the center. There were rows of bookshelves lined with thick, dusty old tomes. The wall to the rear of the room was decorated with paintings, and shelves of vases and painted plates stood before it. They all seemed to be curious from foreign lands. Right, let's find this key. Light on her feet as always, Kit moved into the center of the room. Where'd the mirror say it was again, Serge? She was asking me. How was I supposed to remember? And I think it's the one with the purple in the far bookcase. I think it was supposed to be the one with the purple cover in the furthest bookcase. Alright, let's see. Seeming to take my word for it, Kit made for the case in question. Right, this is the one. Purple cover, purple cover. Aha, this has gotta be it. Kit pulled out a book from the bottom shelf. Maggie and I watched as she opened it. The pages were hollowed out, and hidden inside was an old key decorated with strange symbols. Nailed it! Nice one, Serge! Kit snatched the key from inside the book. Right, time to finally get to look at the treasure. Having got what we came for, we left the study. Suddenly, the darkness felt opaque. Okay, I think this is another ghost encounter. I don't think I need to read through it. I'm surprised that for the same 90 period of gameplay, I've encountered the same random monster once again. Alright, good. Done with that. So let's go back to the vault. We made our way back down the dark side passage leading from the study. Eventually, we arrived back at the intersection. Some stairs led downward, and the corridor branched left and right, with the right branch leading back towards the terrace. Let's go back towards the terrace, now that we have the key. After a short walk down the corridor, the terrace came into view. And let me see if I'm doing the right thing here. Kept following the corridor. A short way along the corridor, running from the right-hand side of the terrace, we found an ancient-looking door, again on our right. This is the clock tower. Let's keep moving. Continuing on down the corridor, we came across a rather sturdy-looking door on our left. A little further on stood a stairway leading upward. Well, this door is clearly meant to keep something for safe. If there ain't some kind of treasure behind it, me name ain't Kid. Yep, that's the smell of cold hard cash. Alright, she muttered to herself as she began to inspect the door more closely. And let me save here. Go inside. This should do it. Kid slipped the key we found into the lock.
Lines of magical light flashed across the surface of the door and vanished as various magical barriers were dispelled. Up, down, left, right, blue, red, green, every color under the sun, and then all was quiet, and the darkness of the manor returned. Right, we're in. With a creak, the heavy door gently swung open. As soon as I saw what was inside, I gave a gasp. Kid stepped inside. Whoa, we've hit the mother lode. And there's this, a conch of some sort, a treasure conch. Out of the darkness loomed a veritable mountain of gold, silver, priceless works of art, and exquisite trinkets. Kid looked as if she were on the verge of drooling at the sight of it all. But what thief wouldn't have been? After all, this was the kind of hoard that few people would ever come across in their lifetime. The smallest fraction of this vast amount of riches would have seen even the most careless spendthrift set for life. Our goal is the frozen flame. Ignore the rest. Magel spoke with an icy dedication to our mission. He had not even batted an eyelid at the sight that greeted us. Yeah, I know. She was disappointed, of course, but she soon set about scanning the room for the object of our hunt. Wait, is that it? Look, on the pedestal over there. I turned to see what Kid was pointing at. And there it is. A small yet perfectly formed jewel that gave off a pale red light. A jewel that looked like a flickering fire, suspended in time. The frozen flame. Silently, Magel walked towards the pedestal. I called out, I think probably the conservative choice is the right choice here. You're right, this is Lynx we're dealing with after all. It may very well be trapped. We should be on our guard. We need to be quick about this. But fine, have it your way, grumbled Kid, looking away. Magel examined the pedestal for a short while, then paused. We were wise to be cautious. Placing his left hand on the base of the pedestal, he muttered an incantation, drawing quick sigils in the air with his right hand. Some glyphs appeared on its smooth surface, and for a moment blazed brightly. There, now we can proceed. Magel calmly reached out and grabbed hold of the red jewel. Sergeant and friends obtained the frozen flame. We've managed to get what we came for without anything horrible happening to us. Surprise, surprise. I breathed a sigh of relief and turned again to Magel. He was staring silently at the jewel in his hands. Magel, we did it! Let's get out of... Before I could finish, the frozen flame crumbled to dust. This flame was a fake. Lynx must be keeping the real one somewhere safe. What? Suddenly, a siren rang out. The room was flooded with light, and metal bars slammed down in front of the door. I turned with a gasp to see Kid frozen, an ornate crown in her hands, and a wide-eyed look of awkward shock on her face. Kid and friends obtained a golden crown too. You're kidding me, right? You had to go and you complete bonehead. I let rip with a stream of choice insults. In my head, that is. Metallic parrots in the four corners of the room suddenly came to life, flapping their wings and screeching, "Rock! Thieves! Thieves!" We're in trouble. These things are going nowhere, said Magel, inspecting the bars covering the door. Although to look at him, you wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong. Which way? Which way? The parrots, to the vault, the vault. Kid died behind a pile of gold coins. Find somewhere to hide. In a panic, I look around the room. There's a large chest sitting wide open next to a pillar. I rush to empty it out, then plunge in headfirst and close the lid. There we go. Wait, who is that guy at the top? There's clearly somebody at the top. Captain, there's no sign of anyone in there. No sign. Strange, peculiar. No one has ever escaped before. None have ever fled the Mousetrap's clutches. None. I gently pushed up the lid of the chest and peeked through the gap. There were 5 goblins wearing suits of armor, unlocking the gate and about to make their way inside. One of the goblins looked around the room, jerking his neck as he peered into the shadows. Capper? What if it actually was a mouse this time? Chef was grumbling about the mouses the other day, Captain. A mouse? A rodent? A rat? Would a teeny tiny thing like that really have sprung the trap? Replied a stocky, plump-looking goblin who must have been the captain. He didn't seem convinced. That was when I heard a strange but oddly familiar sound from a corner of the room. Squeak, squeak. It was coming from where Kid was hiding. Startled, the troop of goblins stopped and looked at each other. For a moment, none of them spoke. Eventually, the goblin captain rubbed his chin, through his jowls, and offered his thoughts. Wow. Mouses? I'm sure Chef was complaining about cats. That voice again. Again, silence. The goblins only looked at each other. Funny how you just say that, Captain. Way I heard it, if it weren't mouses or cats, it was a heckran. Awkward silence followed. In my mind's eye, I could see Kid racking her brains to work out what a heckran was. I smell a rat, by which I mean a thief. Great metaphor handoff there. Following the captain's lead, the guards reached for their weapons, and then heck, ran. Wow, we've been through the world of Pokemon here, folks. Listen, it really is a heckran, by heck. That proves it. The goblin guards grinned and nodded to each other. Cheeky little devil, surprised me there. Let's get out of here, boys. The goblins filed out of the vault. I breathed a sigh of relief. And then they came charging back in again with a mighty roar. There's no such thing as heckrans. What? You sneaky little buggers, roared Kid, leaping out from behind a pile of gold coins. You're one to talk, thief. Brandishing their weapons menacingly, the goblins moved slowly forward, forcing Kid into a corner. I quietly eased open the lid of the coffer and slipped out. Can't leave you anywhere, can I muttered to myself. I knew Kid could handle herself, but I didn't fancy her odds against a whole troop of heavily armed goblins. For a moment, I wasn't sure what to do, but then I made up my mind. Let's save Kid. Right, I had to save Kid. There was no way I was going to abandon a friend in need. Even if it meant facing off against a group of 5 goblin guards, I'd find a way to come out on top, I hope. I drew the knife from my belt and leapt into the middle of the room. Hey, snot for brainses, over here! The goblins all turned to look at me all at the same time. 10 beady, cruel little eyes all staring daggers at me. Fool, in a hurry to die, are we? I gulped and wondered if making a run for it might have been a better plan of action after all. Ah, humans are so stupid! The goblin captain chuckled and licked his teeth. Yup, this one's got a death wish, alright. What else would he be so stupid as to come after Lord Lynx's treasure? Huh. That's a first, being called dumb by a bloody goblin. Try acting tough when you're crying to your mom later on. Judging by Kitter's response, she wasn't feeling massively threatened. And you tell her it was Kid who kicked your teeth in. So you're Kid, are you? The sneaky little, slippery little thief we've heard so much about. This little face-off before a fight is taking actually quite long, and I'm trying to look for a break here, folks. Goblin narrowed his eyes. Lord Lynx will be thanking me from now until my retirement when I bring him your head on a silver platter. Goblin Captain pulled his morning star from his waist and started swinging. You don't know who you're messing with. We ain't no ordinary goblin, sweetheart. Wait, what? We're Lord Nix's elite guard. The goblins that gobble up other goblins. That's right, the Gob Squad. Oh, quit shooting your mouth off and let me stick a boot in it. And with that, Kid launched into a lightning-fast spinning kick. Her boot connected with the side of the goblin's head with a crack, sending the creature tumbling to the ground. Get him, lads! The boy looks scrawny. Start with him. The Goblin Captain spun the heavy metal ball of his morning star in the air. Glorious Gobstrike! Aye, aye. Goblins charged across the room in response to their captain's commands. Gobstrike incoming! Let's dodge. Swiftly dodge the attack. Well, I tried to at least. The morning star slammed to my shoulder with a sickening impact. Writhed in agony at the same time, trying not to lose sight of where the next blow might be coming from. Yeah, that's a spirit, scrawn bag. I ain't done with you yet. Nagel conjured up a black wind which surged forth like a shearing tempest. How does a human know a spell like that? Who are you? The goblin was quickly silenced as the rushing winds tore through it, and it collapsed to the floor with a final shriek. Nagel looked down at his victim, his expression changed. Another goblin flew down from overhead. Bombs away! With a growl, it sent its morning star swinging from above. Let's roll away. I rolled across the floor, dodging the attack. The morning star crashed into the flagstone, sending sparks flying. That was a close shave. I made good up to my escape by rolling further, clumsily putting some distance between myself and my attacker. Gobstrike incoming! Alright, let's parry the attack. I just about managed to push my enemy's attack aside and tried to strike back with my knife, landing a heavy blow right in the goblin's unguarded flank. The goblin's face crumbled in agony. Nagel conjured up a black wind which surged forth like a shearing impact. How does a human know a spell like that? Who are you? The goblin was quickly silenced as the rushing winds tore through it, and it collapsed to the floor with a final shriek. I think that's at least 2 down? Nagel looked down at his victim, his expression unchanged. Another goblin flew down from overhead. Bombs away! With a growl it sent the morning star swinging from above. Roll away. Ah, come on. Different outcomes for the same result. I let out a howl as the force of the impact jarred through my body. I never felt such raw pain coming in my entire life. I rolled around the floor in agony. I really need to finish this encounter, folks. Hi. Dance for me, boy. Let me hear you sing. As I crawled into the floor, the shadow of the goblin towered over me like a black mountain. Die, brat! Its lips curled around its fangs with a leering grin, and it raised its weapon over its head. Why can't Magiel just do an area of attack? Oh no, you don't. You'll have to get through me first. The goblins hesitated for just a moment, only to be run through by a spear of pure lightning conjured up on Magiel.
goblin let out a blood-curdling howl as electricity coursed through its body. It clutched awkwardly at his chest where it had been struck, its face contorted with agony and horror. Nagel's cape fluttered, and his piercing eyes stared coldly at his victim. None who define me shall escape my wrath. My head was spinning, but I managed to take the opportunity to rise to my feet. Gob strike incoming! And let's parry the attack. I just about managed to push my enemy's attack aside and tried to strike back with my knife, landing with a heavy blow right in the goblin's unguarded flank. Great. The goblin's face crumpled in agony. Nagel conjured up a black wind which surged forth like a shearing tempest. How does a human know a spell like that? Who are you? This goblin was quickly silenced as the rushing winds tore through it, and it collapsed to the floor with a final shriek. Nagel looked down at his victim. His expression had changed. Long live Lord Thanks, glory to the Gob Squad! With these final words, the goblin collapsed. That was the last of them. Thank goodness. We made it. Ha! Piece of cake, said Kid, putting a brave face on things as she wiped the sweat from her brow with her arm. And then she stopped and looked at me. Serge, what were you thinking, you great Drongo? Getting the goblins to come after you like that? You really didn't have to, you know. Still, thanks. Can't say I was happy to see your crazy ass jump in like that. She was actually smiling at me. Kid's smile kindled a light inside me, and with it, a peculiar warmth that came in ripples. And then Magil stepped in. Save the chatter for later. We can't waste any more time here. The frozen flame must be somewhere else in the manor. Alright, mate, thanks for stating the obvious. It's not my bloody fault that Lynx has to make things so bloody difficult for everyone. Kid spun on her heel and made a sulky about face for the door. Suddenly, her attention returned to the pile of defeated goblins. This bunch of Drongos said they're Lynx's elite guard, right? But they've got some nice loot on them. With that, she started unceremoniously rummaging through the fallen captain's pockets. She was like a hyena sniffing for scraps. Hello, what's this? She found an odd metal plate. It resembled an open hand, and it was covered in runes. Reckon this might open some other magic doors somewhere. Well, never know when it might come in handy either way. Looks like there's nothing else worth taking unless you count pocket lint and bits of string. She rose to her feet and looked around the room. You know, it's a real shame to leave the rest of all this loot just sitting here unloved. Suppose we can come back for it whenever. Kid turned to face us and flashed a grin. Alright, lads, let's get a move on. It ain't gonna be dark forever. That hand-shaped plate is our only clue for now, muttered Magil, seemingly to himself. And with that, we left the vault and searched for the real frozen flame. Wow, that was a lengthy side story. Alright, let's go ahead and save here. And